We know you're here, right? We need to go and find someone.
Someone's gonna come collect me. Well, where did you get to? We were looking everywhere for you. I'll tell you later. Okay, listen, we need to get in there. Ignore Tom, okay? You just let him hear your story.
Your verdict on the charges brought against the defendant, Thomas King.
She's there. Belle. Oh, you're right, love. Yeah. Listen, whatever happens, you have been amazing.
Really? Yeah, of course you have. And Rachel's testing me yesterday. That's going to help too. And Amelia, she did her best today.
It's up to the jury now, though, isn't it? No matter what we all think, they're the ones that get to decide.
Right. So excited. Asking the woman of my dreams to be my wife.
So what went wrong?
I suppose things just felt a little too much too soon.
So you turned him down? In short, you told him no?
Obviously, it wasn't the answer I was hoping for, but I wouldn't say I was angry. I just wanted to go off and lick my wounds.
He was still upset about it. He was angry even. But I didn't want to leave it like that, and that's when I grabbed his arm and he pushed me away.
It must have been enough to catch her off balance. She hit the side of her head. I felt terrible about it, we both did. But as Belle said herself at the time, it was an accident.
Quite. And as it turns out, this wasn't to be the last marriage proposal. Only next time it would in fact be Mrs. King getting down on one knee.
I guess a part of me wanted to put it right after last time. Because I turned him down. And I loved him. And he loved me. Or at least I thought. And things really were good for a while. Until the wedding day.
It wasn't exactly what either of us were hoping for.
He blamed me for it all. Like it was my responsibility because it was my family.
We got through it. Belle had this letter from her mother to be opened on the day of her wedding. I knew how much it meant to her. So I went up to bed thinking that she would join me when she was ready. But she never did.
No, he was quite clear. He said it was about time I did what he wanted. Our wedding night, and Tom told me to sleep downstairs. On my own.
At the age of 15, you were sentenced to 3 years in a youth detention center for her manslaughter. Must have had a serious impact.
Of course. But that was such a long time ago. And I'm not trying to minimize what happened, but I am not the same person.
I couldn't connect that history of violence to the Belle I knew and loved.
Of course I was worried how he might react. And yeah, maybe I should have told him sooner, but it was never my intention to not tell him.
Belle explained that she'd been on medication since the diagnosis. And though there'd been some ups and downs, she was confident that the medication was at the right level and working. And I took that to mean that the violent episodes had ceased and everything was okay. I believed her.
I had no concerns about my medication at this point. It's been quite some time since my last lapse, and even if I did, my mental health team, they were just a phone call away.
But there were occasions where I think maybe she would forget to take a medication. She could be pretty up and down. Moody, forgetful, argumentative. I tried to be as patient and understanding as I could be, but it was taking its toll.
I never forgot to take my medication. It was too important.
least that's what I thought, until I found out that she was still taking the pill. To say I was upset would be an understatement. Trust is everything in a relationship. But to claim I held her hand under a scalding hot tap... I'm sorry, no.
He knew the tap was hot. I told him to stop that, it was burning me.
The moment I heard her scream, I reached across to turn off the tap, but it was already too late. Clearly neither of us had realized just how hot the water was.
And he made out like it was all my fault. Like he hadn't deliberately just scalded my hand, but he had.
Anyway, afterwards I turned the boiler thermostat down to make sure it didn't happen again.
The dog was Tom's idea. I didn't even want a dog. Not at first. He set up a camera in the house to keep an eye on Piper whilst we were out. But he was also using it to listen into my conversations when he wasn't there. And when I found out, I told him that he needed to get help. And he got so angry. He punched me in the stomach.
I did not hit her. Simple as that. Just a lot of shouting, mainly from Belle.
The 23rd of May this year. I believe that day marked 5 years since your mother's passing. Must have stirred up some difficult emotions.
I had a performance review with my bosses that day.
He was really stressed about it. Hormonal twerps. That's what he called them.
We all vent our stress in different ways.
There was a parcel he wanted me to wait in for. Anyway, I missed it and he was furious.
But this day stands out for one reason in particular. Unlike each of your allegations against the defendant, there were, in fact, witnesses present when you physically attacked Mr. King.
I was just so upset. The things he'd said about my mum, it was so cruel.
It was in the heat of the moment, but that's no excuse. The parcel I'd asked Belle to wait in for was meant to be a surprise on what I knew was going to be a very difficult day. Anyway, that's when I realized I needed to just walk away.
But rather than letting him go, you instead ran after the defendant and shoved him to the ground, as Mr. King's employers and members of your own family witnessed. Your emotions took over, and it resulted in you losing control. And not for the first time. Isn't that right?
All I wanted was for us to be able to put it behind us. But it was pretty clear that we couldn't do that on our own. So I arranged some counseling for Belle. And that's when she told me that she'd already got in contact with her mental health crisis team.
Must have been a relief when Tom finally seemed to have left the village.
Not exactly, no. Because he was with Amelia at this point. So I was worried who was going to do to her what he did to me.
So, when Miss Spencer wished to talk in private...
I thought she'd finally seen through his act. But instead of Amelia turning up, it was Tom. And he locked the door behind him and took the key.
I just wanted to talk. As difficult as it was, I was trying to move on with my life, and clearly Belle couldn't do the same.
He then attacked me. Physically. And then made a coffee. Like it was nothing. And that's when I grabbed the shotgun.
Suddenly she's pointing it right at me.
I wasn't gonna shoot him. I just wanted him to give me the key so I could get out of there.
She got herself into such a state. I don't even think she knew what she was doing.
I just ran. I knew he was coming for me.
I couldn't exactly leave her like that. She still had the shotgun. Who knows what could have happened?
I hid in my brother's flat. And I blocked the door with a chair, but he had an axe. And he just smashed his way through.
I am sorry, but there was no axe. I just pushed the door open, and there she was. Pointing the shotgun at me again. Only this time, she pulls the trigger.
He had an axe.
Luckily for me, the safety was still on. I managed to get the gun from her before anyone got hurt, or so I thought.
He wasn't even angry anymore. It was worse than that. he was getting off on how scared I was, and if I hadn't, you weren't there. You didn't see what he was like.
I turned to leave. And then suddenly there was this axe in my back.
I don't even remember picking it up. He was going to kill me. I was sure of it.
So, facts.
On the basis of that meeting, you made the decision to admit Mrs. King to a crisis assessment unit.
Belle and I made that decision together.
And Mr. King, was he supportive?
No. Far from it, in fact. He claimed the only problem was that Belle had stopped taking her medication, but they'd fixed that now.
How long was Mrs. King at the centre?
Not long. Belle discharged herself soon. Too soon, in my opinion.
What happened next?
I went to visit her at home. She was very on edge about the possibility of me running into her husband. When I suggested meeting somewhere else, somewhere he wouldn't see us, she refused. She told me he was tracking her phone.
And how did Mrs. King seem when she told you this? Angry? Resentful?
Anything but. In my opinion, she was frightened. Broken, even.
Did Mrs. King ever tell you, outright, that she was being abused by her husband?
She didn't have to.
Why was that?
Because in my opinion, it was clear she was being controlled by him. And I know for a fact her cousin Charity shared my concerns.
But Mrs. King never explicitly communicated to you or your team that her husband was being abusive towards her. A simple yes or no will suffice.
No.
Thank you. No further questions. So I'll try and keep my questions to a minimum. In the time you and Mr. King were together, was he ever physically violent towards you?
Well, no.
How about his relationship with your daughter, Esther? Any concerns for violence there?
No. He was actually always really good with her.
Turning now to the day the defendant ended up with an axe in his back. I believe you helped orchestrate the meeting between Mrs. King and her husband. What would you say your motives were at the time?
He wanted to speak to her because she was going to go to the police about him.
So you spoke to Mrs. King and said what exactly? It's important for you to be as accurate as possible here, please.
I told her that I wanted to talk to her in private.
Would it be fair to say that you purposefully allowed Mrs. King to believe that you had something to tell her that might add to her allegations against her husband?
Yes.
But in truth, you didn't believe her allegations, did you? Again, a simple yes or no will suffice.
No.
I imagine you might have had cause to reconsider your ploy if you'd known the man you were in a relationship with, the man you very much believed to be innocent, would end up with an axe in his back.
I wasn't there. I didn't see what happened. It was just Tom and Belle. They're the only ones that know what actually happened, but...
Thank you. No more questions.
Anyone else find it odd?
When I found out we were going to have a baby, that we were going to be a family, it was everything I ever wanted. What I thought we both wanted.
Then came the news that your wife had miscarried.
Suddenly, everything I'd imagined, everything I'd dreamed of was gone. I was devastated. As for Belle, I couldn't even begin to imagine how it must have felt for her.
I don't know what I was thinking. All I know is that I was scared of him. And that having a baby in that moment, it would have been a mistake.
To go through all of that grief together, only to find out the truth, that she'd lied. She'd aborted our baby. Well, that's when I realized that our marriage was over.
You talked a lot about family and children, Mr. King. Would you say that family is important to you?
I had wanted one of my own, so yes, I would say so.
You stayed with your uncle and his family after your relationship with Mrs. King ended. How was that?
I was grateful to them for putting a roof over my head, if that's what you mean.
I wonder, did you still feel the same way after you found out that your aunt had taken your young cousin to tell the police what he told her? How you hounded and terrorized him over the whereabouts of a tablet computer. The very same tablet you'd in fact told the police you'd lost.
Because I had.
Or perhaps more accurately, attempted to dispose of. How must it have felt, do you suppose, for a young boy to unwittingly stumble upon his cousin smashing up said tablet in a fit of utter rage?
As I said to the police, that never happened.
I wonder what was on that tablet to have provoked such extreme behavior. It's rather a pity that your uncle's home wasn't rigged up with cameras too. Start with the puppy cam. Then there's the CCTV cameras monitoring the outside of the house. The motion sensors fitted to all the windows.
It's not a crime to be security conscious.
How about the tracker you secretly installed on your wife's phone? And the tiny, almost undetectable screw-head cameras you concealed in every room, including the bathroom. Did your wife know about those too? The same cameras responsible for the video footage you hid from the police on the tablet you claimed you lost.
Again, it's not a crime to install cameras in your own home.
Except it was no longer your home, was it? Those cameras were in fact installed after you had moved out, after your marriage had ended.
No.
Fortunately, the police were able to recover your missing tablet and its contents. Video footage all indeed recorded after you had moved out, proving beyond all reasonable doubt that not only were you lying to the police when you claimed you had only installed one camera, of which Mrs. King was aware, but that you knowingly withheld evidence. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, ask yourselves, are these the actions of a man whose only motivations were safety and security? After you've considered that, ask yourselves, just what else might Mr. King have lied about today?
It was pretty fun at first, being able to watch Pipe on the puppy cam whilst we were out. But it stopped being fun when I realised it wasn't just the dog Tom was keeping tabs on.
The camera was for the dog, and the dog alone. The fact is, Belle could have just as easily caught me having a private conversation. Maybe she did.
I even thought he had access to my laptop, after he pretty much threatened that private photos on there, photos that he had taken, could easily fall into the wrong hands.
I don't recall making any such threat. Now, if I did mention the photos, it would have been for Belle's own protection. I know I was always on at her about installing security updates on her laptop, but again, not for my benefit.
So when I found those tiny cameras in the house, I felt sick. Because I didn't know how long they'd been up there, or how many more there were. And I finally thought I was free of him, but he could never let me go.
It was only ever about keeping Belle safe. I was her husband, and I realize it might sound a little old-fashioned, but, well, I saw that as my responsibility. And it was a responsibility I took seriously.
We do, Your Honor. Very good. You may sit. Well, no doubt it's been a long day. But, having heard the case for the prosecution and the defense, and all the relevant points of law upon which your deliberations must rest, once again, may I remind you that in a case such as this, the prosecution has no choice but to rely on a good deal of circumstantial evidence. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I must send you away to consider your verdict on the charges brought against the defendant, Thomas King. Thank you.
So,
Any news?
Sorry.
You're taking the time. Is that a good thing?
Can't really say.
Please be advised that Court 3 will shortly be back in session for the Crown versus King. All relevant personnel, please now make your way back to Court 3.
Suspect. Which means the jury's made its decision.
Hey, we can stay here if you don't want to. No. It's time. I'm ready.
Has the jury reached a verdict upon which you are all agreed?
We have, Your Honour.
In respect of count 1, an indictment of the offence of assault, do you find the defendant, Thomas King, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
In respect of count 2, the offence of controlling and coercive behaviour, do you find the defendant, Thomas King, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Is that the verdict of you all?
Yes.
You may sit. Thomas King, the evidence the court has heard today places you in the highest category of culpability for your criminal actions and behaviour, though you have no prior convictions and are of good standing professionally. It is recognised that one of the factors allowing an abuser to continue unnoticed is the ability of the perpetrator to have both a public and a private face. Mr. King, your campaign of abuse against your wife went on even beyond the end of your functioning relationship. In fact, it increased in severity. I believe you have demonstrated no remorse for your actions, and you have no inclination to change your ways. Therefore, I impose a custodial sentence of 3 years. You may take him down.
You told the truth, and you were believed. That is everything. And by the way, you never did actually say where you got to yesterday. I went to a support group.
Everyone, this is Belle.
Hi, Belle. Hi, Belle.
I sat and I listened to all these brave women. Old, young, tough, clever, posh, skin, you name it. And they all had their own story.
It made me...
I finally realized everything that I went through with Tom, it wasn't my fault. I wasn't broken. It was him. These women, their stories, that is what gave me the strength to stand up in court today, to tell my story and to be believed, and to show there are people out there, and they will listen.